PN Mandal University, Bihar. Professor P.K. Yadav, the Principal of Thakur Prasad College, Madhepura, Bihar. Dr. Sudhanshu Shekhar, the Organizing Secretary of this Mahayagya. I am thankful to the philosophy fraternity and colleagues and students for all the encouragement I have received from them to become who I am today. Because we are all social beings, and it is only from society that we learn, and culture is also part of our own society. Thanks to Professor R.C. Sinha ji, Professor B.K. Ojha ji, and Indu Pandey ji, and Rajkumari ji. And also thanks to all the people whose names I do not know, but I know that at the grassroots level, lot of work has been going on, and with how much difficulties you might have faced, but still this whole event of 8 days is going on very smoothly. I really congratulate you for this. Okay, now without wasting much time, I would like to deliver the lecture on language, literature, and culture. As you know, even the speakers that have spoken ahead of me have given the indication that this is a very vast topic. So, but I will try to touch some aspects, and a lot of things I know you already know, but sometimes we need to remind ourselves again and again about the importance of language, literature, and culture. Since this is the main theme of the webinar today, one needs to understand these three topics individually. Yet, one also needs to note that there is a lot of overlapping in their areas, and how one has effect on the other two. Language is the means of communication that we have. It is used for various purposes, ranging from daily discourse to the understanding of the technical and formal discourse. It is through language that we gain knowledge and power. Language may be verbal or non-verbal. We can clarify our thoughts only if we learn to talk to ourselves. Introspection, that helps us define and refine our thoughts. And this refinement is not possible without the use of language. The capacity to use language by man has enhanced the quality of life. It may be noted that there are differences in ordinary spoken language and the written language. Differences between prose and poetry. Differences between fact and fiction presented in language. There are also differences in the styles of writing narratives. So literature is very fascinating because the creativity and complexity is involved in it. One uses simile, metaphor, etc. to embellish the language. Language may often be ambiguous. Literature has three cardinal features. They are the author, the reader, and the language. It depends on how the author communicates with the reader. Literature communicates experience. The experience that is complete, whole, and entire. Nothing more and nothing less. But the point is that experience does not happen in language. Language can only offer a suggestion of meaning. The meaning also depends on the context. Hence, language sometimes is unable to express truly the events experienced. Meaning has to be implied or read between the lines, and more so in literature. So, in fact, literature helps us to say what cannot really be said in language. So, in a way, it indicates what we want to say, even without saying it. So, one can understand there is thus the suggestive meaning in language. So, one can understand the layers of meaning in language. If there is one meaning only, then why are there so many interpretations? Here we turn to the philosophical aspect of meaning in language. Lots of work is done on the meaning of meaning. A word or a sentence has several connotations, several layers of meaning. Discovery of multiplicity of meanings helps in the explanation and discovery of the reality. Linguistic competence helps us in understanding literature in a better way and also in understanding the reality in a better way. There is thus a close link between language and literature. Often, when one communicates, he or she does not give any special attention to how he or she communicates. As a result, communication between parties is either diminished or lost. Because as Wittgenstein said, there is language can convey understanding, but sometimes it also conveys the misunderstanding. So both these aspects are there in language. So generally speaking, in science, a theory centered on a single idea, which the theoretician wishes to provide an answer. Usually there is only one component to the theory being generated, that being the single idea that is in question or that needs to be explained. Unlike traditional scientists, Ogden and Richards have in their work meaning of meaning. They take a different approach to developing their theory of meaning. Rather than focus on a single idea like the scientists upon which to base their theory, they deconstruct the idea into many parts, thus creating a multifaceted theory to explain communication behaviors. The facets explored by Ogden and Richards include meaning theory, definition theory, and symbol theory. The theory of meaning is a concept that has been present in communication since the very first human beings learned to communicate. As communicators, we are aware that nearly everything we say has meaning on some level to ourselves as well as to those with whom we share our words. The fundamental difference between how we previously looked at meaning and how Ogden and Richards look at it is that many scholars argue that for every word there is a single correct meaning associated with it. And Ogden and Richards counter this claim with their theory of proper meaning, superstition. So they say this is a superstition to think that there is only one and only one proper meaning, which states that there is no single correct meaning associated with each and every word, because each word means something different to each person. Or more simply, meanings don't reside in the words, they reside in the people. And they reside in their thoughts of the people. Consider, for example, the word cold. Since there are various variations in word meaning among people, if one were to ask what is the meaning of word cold, he or she is likely to respond pertaining to the temperature. However, consider the word cold in Cold War, or in when someone says that someone's response was cold, it was not warm. So it is actually expressing, it is the type of attitude expressed towards other people or objects. So there are in this way we can see that the languages of the world, one could perceive the problem of meaning and how there can be no single correct meaning for the word. Whenever we hear anything, we spring spontaneously to an immediate conclusion. Namely, the speaker is referring to what we should be referring to were we speaking the words ourselves. We think that all others are using language the way we are trained, or we are going to use the words. What is fundamentally more important is the fact that through the study of these theories, scholars have been afforded a new avenue from which to view communication behaviors, and thus have been provided a foundation for which new theories and models can be formulated. To this end, we might be able to grasp the seemingly infinite number of facets that affect every level of human interaction through the communication, and in many cases form a better understanding of the unsurmountable realm of explanations. This is so vast, so I will just mention a few names who have given different theories of meaning. Frege gives the theory of reference to understand the connection between language and reality. He denies the ideal world and proves the existence of the external world. Russell, on the other hand, puts forth the theory of logical atomism, resulting in language containing only words representing simple particulars, the simple properties and relations thereof, and logical constants which, despite this limited vocabulary, could adequately capture all the things. Metaphysically, logical atomism is the view that the world consists of a plurality of independent and discrete entities, which, by coming together, form facts. Grice, on the other hand, is proposing an intention-based semantics. That is, a semantical theory according to which the meaning of an utterance is explicated in terms of the psychological state it is intended to produce in an audience. Such a semantics focuses on the use of language to communicate. For example, if you want to irritate someone, you will, instead of saying, the words you may be saying would be just thank you. But the way in which you say, na, you just bang your hands, thank you, bahut bahut dhanyawad. The way in which you say it will convey a totally opposite meaning of the words that you are using. So this is what Grice is trying to indicate, that even though the word meaning may be perfect, but the intention is conveyed by the manner in which you are communicating that language. So the psychological state of the person communicating is also important. language also arise the various theories of truth, that what really is true when we are using language, when we say this is a table, this is a rose, etc. So with this, as we all know, come up the different theories of truth, the correspondence theory of truth, which says that if when I say this is an apple and I can point the apple and show it to you, and the word and the apple correspond, and therefore you say this is the correspondence theory of truth. But you know that it got rejected because it was claimed that two things that are unlike cannot be compared. Reality cannot be compared with the word. And so only similar things like colors can be compared with colors, sounds can be compared with sounds. You cannot compare a sound with a color. So to overcome this kind of an objection, the coherence theory of truth came into being, in which only sentences were compared. But then this also broke down because ultimately, through the back door, it had to allow the entry of correspondence theory. Then we have the pragmatic theory of truth, which tells us that whatever is useful is real. We should accept that as the truth. But then this does not tell us objectively what really is the truth, and then the truth keeps on changing, which is not acceptable, because each one of us feels that there is something absolute in the truth, and this pragmatic theory does not claim that it is absolute. Now, there are so many thinkers. Out of these, as Dr. Indu Khanduri also pointed out, that Wittgenstein in the 20th century, he came up with the revolutionary aspect of toolbox and language game in trying to explain what really is language and what it conveys. So, in Wittgenstein's views, language game meaning is not fixed, but it is open. By showing the application of modern logic to metaphysics via language, he provided insights into the relations between the world, thought, and language, and thereby also into the nature of philosophy. It is the later Wittgenstein who mostly recognized in the philosophical investigation, who took the more revolutionary step in critiquing all of the traditional philosophy, including its climax in his own early work, which is the Tractatus. So the nature of this philosophy is heralded as anti-systematic through and through, yet conducive to genuine philosophical understanding of traditional problems. Now, in the preface itself to PI, Philosophical Investigations, Wittgenstein states that his new thoughts would be better understood by contrast and against the background of his old thoughts, those of the Tractatus. And indeed, most of the part 1 of Philosophical Investigation is essentially critical. Its new insight can be understood as primarily exposing the fallacies or the mistakes of the traditional way of thinking about language, truth, thought, intentionality, and perhaps also mainly about philosophy. PI begins with a quote from St. Augustine's Confessions, which gives us a particular picture of the essence of human language based on the idea that words in language name objects and that sentences are combinations of such names. This picture of language cannot be relied on as a basis for the metaphysical, epistemic, or linguistic speculation. Despite its plausibility, this reduction of language to representation cannot do justice to the whole of human language. Part of human language can be explained like this. He does not deny that, but it cannot cover the whole of human language. So the picture of language is at the base of the whole traditional philosophy, but for Wittgenstein, we have to give up this way of looking at language, and so he suggests a new way of looking at language, which will yield the view of philosophy as therapy. Traditional theories of meaning in the history of philosophy were intent on pointing to something exterior to the proposition which endows it with sense. This something could generally be located in an objective space, either outside or maybe in our mind, in our thought, in our head, or that is a mental representation. As early as 1933, in his book, The Blue Book,
जी सुना जनाब, थोड़ा संक्षेप किया जाए, क्षमा इसके लिए चाहते हैं, क्षमा के लिए खेद है, और लक्ष्मण प्रसाद सर से रिक्वेस्ट करते हैं कि काइंडली वो माइक को अनम्यूट कर लें, प्लीज सर, लक्ष्मण प्रसाद सर।
ठीक है, तो what Wittgenstein is saying that we should understand language in the way of a game, just as, or like a toolbox. The words are like the tools, and when we try to understand the function of each tool, like the function of each word may be specific, but supposing the fan is going on very fast and all the papers on your desk are flying, you take a hammer and you place it there. You take a plier and you place it on the other group of papers. Now, you are not using that as that tool, but you are using it as a paperweight. So that is why Wittgenstein emphasized that we must understand language through the use and not merely by the fixed meanings that we tie with them. And that is why he introduced the concept of language game, because it is through the language and the crisscross of meanings, just like the family resemblance, just as a family resembles each other, in that way the meanings also resemble each other, and there is no one fixed meaning. This is what he meant. And coming to culture, we see language and literature and culture, they are all again crisscross. So the one oldest living culture is, I refer to India, and the Vedas are the heritage that we have today, and they originated as the oral tradition. So language can be symbolic, language can be oral, it does not have to be the written word. So, and the sacred, so the symbol of I want to take is the swastik. The swastik is, it is and the prayer of the swastik is an ardent aspiration for the highest good and well-being of everything, of the whole universe. This swastik emanates from the Sanskrit word swa asti. Su means good and asti means being. So this is the symbol of swastik being used as the holy sign from time immemorial. And we see that the Sanskrit also, the way the spoken words have, language has emanated from Nad Brahm, and all how the swaras and the matrikas have come in the Sanskrit language is in a very logical manner, and the placement of each, the alphabets is in a logical manner depending on the origin, the place of origin of the sound. So this is, I think, the understanding of this language is very important and has been overlooked or denied. And I think it is not only the learning of Sanskrit will lead to our Sanskriti. Sanskriti is that appreciating all the finer things of life, be it music, dance, literature, etc. And so it will lead to that exploration of Sanskrit and the communication of it from one generation to the next. With this, I conclude. Thank you.